If you've ever caught yourself poking at your belly or scrutinizing your thighs in the mirror, you are not alone. Body image is something most of us grapple with, especially in a world obsessed with airbrushed perfection. But here's the deal. You are more than your body, and learning to love the skin you're in isn't just about feeling good. It's about living life fully. So today we'll discuss why body image can feel so complicated, what contributes to the way you see yourself, and most importantly, my 5 steps to help you start accepting your body and yourself. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the podcast. Hello, you know who I am. I am your host, Dr. Abby Medcalf, but you can just call me Abby, please. Yeah, if you ever write to me or say anything, it's just Abby, I promise. When my mother was alive, she liked to introduce me with the doctor part. But then, of course, people thought I was an MD. So, down in her retirement community in Florida, old people would be pulling up their shirts asking me to check out a boil or something. It's problematic. But so just Abby. Just Abby's good. So before we start, I want to say a word about what I'm not going to include today and a word about the One Love Collective really quick. So first, I'm not going to discuss eating disorders today. If you'd like an episode on that topic, let me know. Comment under the video. If you're watching on YouTube, you can, email me as always at abbymedcalf.com, abby@abbymedcalf.com, or you can go on the website and the Let's Connect page, all the places, all the things. Just let me know if that's something you think I should do an episode about. I'm also not going to cover the body image challenges for trans individuals. Research shows, and there's a lot of it, that transgender and non-binary people face really unique and frankly profound challenges related to body image and body acceptance. Many trans people, of course, experience gender dysphoria, from that mismatch between their gender identity and their physical appearance. And this can make societal pressures around body image even more pronounced. So I'm not going to really belittle all that by having this topic, throwing it a little aside in here. That doesn't work. So, non-binary trans folks are not my specialty. And so please go to a podcast that would specialize in that if that's where you find yourself. I'm not saying things that I share here wouldn't be helpful, but I want to honor you. So there you have it. And then you can get more community and more Abby if you sign up for my Patreon community, which we are calling the One Love Collective. This episode alone, I'm going to have 3 bonuses in the Patreon community. I'm still going to deliver you incredible value as I always do, as I've always promised. You do not have to spend a penny. But if you want more, if you want like-minded individuals that you can talk with about what we talk about, or just to get support and love, and if you'd like to dig deeper on episodes, with journaling prompts or a worksheet or a live Q&A with me, then you'll come on over to the community. But again, if you're just here listening today, I promise to give you great value, as I always have now in my 7th season. All right. So let's start with the science behind, but me, I'm going to give you the research and the reasons why and all the things. So I want to start with the science behind body image. And let me say first, body image isn't what you see in the mirror. It's about how you feel about what you see in the mirror. I'll repeat that. Body image has nothing to do with what you see in a mirror. It's all about how you feel, your perceptions, your ideas about what you're seeing in the mirror. And I'm going to link to all the research, as I always do, in the show notes on the blog post page and under the YouTube video. But again, if you're in the Patreon community, all of the downloads, all of the research, everything's going to be in one place for you. You're going to be able to go boom, and there everything is that you might want. So research shows that body image is shaped by biological, psychological, and social factors. Okay, so that's really what we're going to come to today. And there's sort of a perfect storm, right, of nature and nurture there. And these are the 3 dimensions that influence how you perceive yourself and navigate your relationship with your body. So I'm going to break them down right now, right? Let's just go there. So let's talk about the role of biology first. And biology of course, significantly influences body image in ways really we're only beginning to understand. I would call this science and research maybe 50 years old in a very, direct way of what we're talking about today. Our evolutionary history, it has shaped a very deep-seated focus on physical appearance, right? And all the reasons why, symmetry, physical health were really critical markers of survival and reproductive success. And that was what it was all about, back in the day. We do things differently now, but that's all it was for back in the day. So the really ingrained neurological, in our neurons, in our DNA, these preferences are, of course, outdated in today's society where, health and value are way more complex than your outward appearance, but they're there nonetheless. There's also hormonal changes. They play a role, obviously in puberty that introduces new body shapes and sizes. There's often a lot of self-consciousness as people adjust to these changes. There's fluctuations in your hormones like cortisol, triggered by stress. And that in itself can contribute to weight changes and that are going to keep impacting your body image. So, and there's genetic predispositions. They influence body type and your susceptibility to gain weight or metabolic disorders. And again, that can complicate how you see yourself even further, of course, right? I mean, think about it. So just like your height, your weight is also in some ways predetermined by your background. So if you look at families, that's why they often, will have the same kind of frame maybe or something. And that can be hard if you're in the same family and have a different frame than another member of your family. So let's talk about the role of psychology, of course, because that's where I come in. And so the psychological landscape of body image is really vast and incredibly multifaceted. So, I'm not going to spend hours on this today. I'm just trying to give you the little pieces and then we'll get into the five steps. But no matter how you look at it from a psychological viewpoint, self-esteem is a cornerstone, right? It's a cornerstone. People who have higher self-esteem are less likely to internalize negative body perceptions. End of. Doesn't matter how their body looks. We, again, know this from the research. And people with perfectionistic tendencies, if you're one of my perfectionists out there, those people, you find yourself trapped in a cycle often of dissatisfaction because you're chasing an ideal that likely doesn't even exist because of how you think you're supposed to be or what little part of you is supposed to be a certain way. Of course, past experiences are going to play a crucial role, negative comments from peers, bullying. Even those things are so obvious, but there's also those kind of quote unquote innocent remarks from maybe family members that really plant the seeds of you having dissatisfaction for your body. I literally remember things people said. I remember being on a baseball diamond. I was playing baseball with a bunch of boys and, I think I was 12 or 11. And I remember this so well. I slid into third base and I popped up and I was doing it was such a good slide. And I remember how I was Trey Turner for a minute. I really it was a beautiful slide and I popped up and I was feeling really strong and amazing. And there was a fence right there, it was public and there was a bunch of men leaning on the fence and I got up and I was dusting myself off and I hear one of them go, "Oh my God, that's a girl." And they all started laughing. And I still remember that, right? So here's this, because I was not built like I am now. I had I did not have the boobs. I did not have the curves. I had big thighs, I was an athlete. I was very athletic looking at that time. And I had the wonderful Dorothy Hamill haircut, very, very short, not attractive on anybody, I just want to say, except Dorothy. The unibrow, you know how it is, okay? I think you all know how I looked. All right, I had braces. That was that was that year. It wasn't a good time for Abby. But regardless, here I was. I think I remember it so poignantly because I was in a moment of feeling really proud of my slide, of how because I was practicing, sliding and popping up. And then these men were laughing at me and my body. So that didn't feel good. And these are the kinds of things that can stick with you more than anything. And over time, these experiences contribute to, of course, like these deeply entrenched beliefs about our self-worth and our appearance, and mental health issues like anxiety and depression. That might exacerbate your body image struggles, right? Because those kinds of things amplify those feelings we have of inadequacy. They amplify, we get really self-critical. And if that's not enough, right, we have cognitive biases. Because, there's more. Yes, Abby, there's more. Like, the tendency to focus on your perceived flaws, right, while ignoring your strengths. And everyone does this because our cognitive bias is towards negativity for survival. So that skews how you see yourself. And addressing these kinds of biases through therapies like, of course, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which is what almost all therapists use. It's when we have you, rethink, have a new way of thinking about something. And CBT has really been proven effective in helping people reshape their kind of mental narrative around their body image. And we'll talk about that when we get in our 5 steps. But you got your psychological factors, self-esteem, perfectionism, past trauma. All of these significantly affect your body image, again, along with maybe any mental health issues you have. So, again, struggling with anxiety or depression, you're going to be more prone to a negative self-perception. It's very likely. Research highlights how childhood experiences, again, the bullying, comments about weight or your shape, really get into those long-term beliefs. And all these things come together. So it's not just this biological thing about how we quote unquote should look or think we should look. There's these other factors too. And I do want to say something about body dysmorphia right now. Okay. So body dysmorphic disorder, or BDD, is a mental health condition. So this is a diagnosable mental health condition that involves obsessive thoughts about perceived flaws in our appearance, and flaws that are often invisible to other people. Okay, so most of you listening just have a general body dissatisfaction. Okay, it's not to a pathological or diagnosable degree, and trust me, it can be deep. Your body dissatisfaction, you could have it your whole life, but it's still not BDD. BDD is more severe, and it will significantly disrupt a person's daily life, and there's a lot of compulsive behaviors that are tied to it. So, excessive exercise, excessive grooming, mirror checking, or avoiding mirrors. I see that. I literally had a client once who did not have one mirror in her home. I know she had a small hand mirror that she would, on her makeup counter mirror, that she would do her makeup in really close, but nothing where she could see her whole body. And crazy. Not crazy, God bless her. Difficult, right? I mean crazy like to live that way, not her. Trying to hide parts of your body, either with makeup, with scarves, or even how you sit. I've had clients, multiple, who would sit a certain way because they had a quote-unquote good side. And people who were in relationships, married, engaged, living with people, all those kinds of levels, who would not let their partner see the left side. Like if they went out to dinner, they always sat so their partner was looking at their right side, that kind of thing. This is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about if you think your butt is big and you're wearing an oversized shirt to kind of cover your ass. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this really overly focusing, plastic surgery goes in here, fillers. And the biggie is not noticing when things actually start to look worse, not believing others when they say you look good, or yeah, little lip filler is great, but wow, what are you doing? You look like, because we've all been there where we've seen someone and we think, I can't believe they think that looks attractive. And I've had so many clients who are just so full of different fillers or really just getting, I've had clients with multiple nose jobs, multiple boob jobs, multiple, then they want their chin or the implant here or it really starts to compile on itself in very scary ways. BD, and I'm not saying everyone who's had plastic surgery has BDD at all. So I want to be clear. Again, you need to have it in this other way I'm talking about. Maybe avoiding social situations completely. Again, I've had overweight clients who didn't want to go somewhere like to a high school reunion or something because they didn't think they looked good or they felt overweight. That to me is not necessarily BDD, right? It's a little different than that, but it would be pathologically never going outside the house even. Like think of that. Like you never leave your house almost because you can't stand the thought of someone seeing you outside. So research shows that BDD affects about 2% of the population here in the United States, and it often begins in adolescence. No big surprise there, right? So this is, right, because, body image concerns are really heightened in adolescence. So, and obviously social media as well as other kind of cultural pressures really exacerbate, make worse the condition, right, by promoting really unattainable beauty standards, frankly. So BDD distorts how individuals perceive themselves. I've had a client with BDD who really kept focusing on the size of his nose. Yes, men get it too. And he thought it was grotesquely large. It was not grotesque. It was not grotesque, and it was not overly. It wasn't a small nose, but it certainly. I never would have even described him as having a big nose. If someone said, "What does this guy look like?" There's 10 things I would have said. I don't think I would have mentioned his nose. I mean, and he was getting that from everybody, not just me. So, but that's BDD. It's like really focusing on his nose. And he started to get nose jobs, and nothing was ever enough or right, or it's some like you're chasing something that doesn't exist. There's really a disconnect between perception and reality. Okay, so that's really what's at the core of BDD. So if you think you have BDD and not a more kind of usual or normal issue with accepting your body, you need to consult a qualified mental health professional. I mean, right away. Like that's something you should not be listening to a podcast about, that you should be, if what I'm saying is making you wonder, then it would be such a good idea to, I think BDD is often misdiagnosed and underdiagnosed in certain ways. So that 2% might be a tiny bit bigger these days, but it's not, again, the vast majority of you listening do not have BDD. Okay. So again, you might fit a few of those and go, well, I don't like people. I don't like to walk away from people because I don't like how my butt looks, or, I back out of rooms maybe, right? I've backed out of a room or two in my day, or, I don't like to go to certain things when certain people are there because I feel like people are laughing at me or they're going to talk about my weight. I'm really uncomfortable on airplanes or going to movie theaters. I don't, there could be things like that. I'm not saying, but that doesn't mean you have BDD. It means you're very self-conscious. You have shame. You have other issues with accepting your body. It could be BDD, but it's likely that you really are a little overweight and that you really are feeling those feelings. Do you know what I'm saying? It's more when, anorexia would be an easier example of that, when these people, usually women, but men get anorexia too, would look in the mirror and they're literally skeletal and they just can't make themselves eat. That's obviously a very severe, BDD is a severe part of anorexia, right? Does that make sense? Okay. So I want to talk also about the role of social influences, okay? So, and I think social influences are probably the most pervasive factors in shaping your body image, because from a young age, again, family dynamics lay the groundwork for how you likely perceive your body. I know I'm repeating some things here, but I just want to keep sort of saying the message here about where this might be coming from. Some parents openly criticize their own appearance. How many moms do I know who are on diets and constantly talking about dieting and counting calories or going on different diets, and I'll tell you, when I meet their daughters, they're usually having an issue with food in some way. And I'm not blaming moms. I'm a mom. I'm just saying it gets passed around. Even if you think you're telling your child, like, no, and it could get passed down to a son too. Again, dads too. Dads who get overly fixated on their bodies or things. It's just, it tends to be more women who have problems with body image acceptance. So it tends to be. But if you criticize your kids' appearance often, right? And again, you're passing down these insecurities, siblings, friends, peers, these are all layers of comparison, right? Whether it's intentional or not, it's always there. And I don't think the role of media can be understated. Okay? I really don't. Or overstated. Sorry, not understated. I don't think, let me say it again. I don't think the media's role cannot be overstated. How's that? The media's role cannot be overstated. That's what I was trying to say. Abby, what were you trying to say? That's what I was trying to say. And traditional media, magazines, television, obviously all that really perpetuate a very narrow beauty standard, right? Very narrow. But you all know what I'm going to say. Social media has really amplified all that, just through the roof. And so, obviously Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all these places really create these curated realities where, you get somebody or an influencer who presents this filtered, edited version of their life, and people are, constantly exposed to that, to these truly unattainable ideals. And it really fosters just a relentless cycle of comparison and dissatisfaction. It's problematic because influencers and famous people often lie about how they achieve these results and the amount of money spent to look the way they do. So if you're not careful, you're really getting duped all the time into thinking something is attainable and it's not, or even that is remotely normal. And don't get me started on the Kardashians. I can't even, who's the young one? Kylie, selling lipstick that made her lips big. It makes me insane that people believe it. It's so obviously a lie. I just don't understand. Please help me understand. Comment under the video how this could be true. I mean, she's made, $1 billion selling, I don't know what, with so much plastic surgery, so many fillers, so much stuff. I mean, she does not look anything like she did. Her chin, her nose. I mean, oh my God, people, come on. I don't even know what to say. So, buying into that culture in any way is so dangerous. And of course, cultural norms, let's talk about it because that's part of that. They play a pivotal role. And in Western societies, thinness is often equated with success and self-discipline, right? And other cultures can prioritize different body types. That's the thing. And part of the proliferation of, kind of Western, American, quote unquote, looks has even affected countries where they used to really celebrate larger sizes. And then it's like, oh, that's not good anymore. I mean, in some places. So, and these norms really create a framework that either, validates your body or undermines how you see your body image. So depending on how closely they align with, maybe your societal expectations or your family's expectations and all that. So if you grew up in a household where diet culture was prominent, you're likely to internalize those messages, okay? And social media's constant comparison game can really exacerbate insecurities and make it hard to see yourself outside the filter of somebody else's expectations and thinking that they're all looking at you or in something, or you're getting compared. I want to say a quick word about cultural perspectives on body image because we're here and I have listeners in over 180 countries. And I obviously I'm not going to go over 180 countries, but I just want to say a little bit more about culture and body image. Because body image struggles can really be universal. But they're not the same everywhere. So as I said, like here in the US, thinness is what's equated with success or beauty. But if you're looking in a Mauritania in Northwest Africa, is that where that is? I think it's in Northwest Africa. Fuller bodies are seen as a sign of wealth and fertility, right? These are good things. Smart North Africa. And you really see how deeply ingrained societal norms are and how much they shape our perceptions. If you're in Japan, they emphasize, cleanliness and modesty, and they'll often prioritize health over appearance in a lot of ways. In Brazil, we're celebrating curves, but beauty standards are still so intense, and there are some of the highest rates of cosmetic surgery in the world are in Brazil, right? Scandinavia, they values practicality and comfort. There's less emphasis on being thin for the sake of beauty. And, South Korea, you're seeing it everywhere. Body positivity is practically non-existent in South Korea, as is appreciation for any kind of diversity. The absence of exposure and these unrealistic expectations for flawless skin and a certain body frame and all that. There's a lot of, there's going to create a lot of toxicity when it comes to self-image, right? So depending on where you are, nobody escapes, or you might escape. I hope you did, but you're probably not listening if you did. So it's not I'm saying the cultural contrast to remind you that body image isn't a universal experience, which is why it is so subjective. It's shaped by the society you live in, by the family you grew up in, okay? So there's the top 3 reasons why you struggle with body image. I just want to bring this home are, of course, those family messages, the family dynamics. Okay. You're going to absorb those attitudes and behaviors of your caregivers. And if, again, your parents were criticizing their own bodies or commenting negatively on your weight or their weight, that's what gets right into you. I will tell you that I was so focused, having a daughter and a son, on having a very healthy relationship with food around them. And I am very happy. I really made it like a job for myself to make sure that I was always very comfortable in my body, even when I wasn't. That's how I learned to be comfortable in my body, frankly, was because it was what motivated me was my kids, that I did not want my daughter to have, I looked at pictures of myself when I was in my 20s or something. When in my 20s, I thought I was, always, oh, my thighs are too big, or I have handles here, I have whatever. I don't even know what I was looking at because my body was banging. And it's crazy to me, but and my mother was always dieting, and there was a lot of stuff around food. My sister is very out that she has an eating disorder, there was drug addiction. I mean, there's just so many icky things around. My dad was a chef, there was so many messages around food and eating and not eating and what you ate. And, you absorb it. And I didn't want my kids to have that. So I had a candy bowl in my house. Other kids would come over and be like, there's a candy bowl? They couldn't believe it, And you know what? Whenever the candy bowl was wiped out, it was because other kids had come to my house. My kids were not wiping out the candy bowl because it was always there. It wasn't a dangerous thing to have a piece of chocolate. And there was ways that I love food, and I talk about food all the time and all that. And there were ways that I was very conscious of it. And again, this is something I teach my clients. This isn't just about me. So, because again, there's a lot of subtle actions. I have a client who had parents who were always commenting. This client was 6'1", I think, maybe taller. And, and she was the tallest by far of her siblings. And I think her brother might have been as tall, but not her sister. And her sister was always much thinner. And there was a lot of ways that her parents were always comparing her to her sister. You have a big frame, or look at your sister's tiny waist, or whatever, right? These sort of messages, even though the parents never said to her, you're overweight. I think they did later, but when she was or getting put on diets when you're really young. There's a lot of ways this influences you. Siblings teasing you. My brothers used to tease me relentlessly about my body. And of course that it's going to solidify some insecurities when that's happening all the time. I'm thinking of, clients where there was a lot of, again, diet culture, things like that. It's just really, these comments stay with us into adulthood, and it makes it really difficult for us to see our bodies as valuable or as beautiful. Okay. My mom actually said to me, because my mom was a narcissist, as I've shared before, I remember her telling me that I should lose weight or I would lose my husband. She's like, you're going to lose him. You should lose a few pounds. Like she used to say things like that to me. Crazy kind of stuff. When my daughter was maybe 6, we were visiting my mother in Florida. My daughter's getting out of the pool, and my mother said, "Oh, she has a cute shape." She's 6. She doesn't have a shape. There's no way to sexualize my daughter at 6, right? And I would have to jump on that kind of stuff because that's what my mother did with me. And that's why I was so self-conscious about that stuff. Do you know what I mean? But, it sounds like a throwaway comment. You might not even notice it if you or anyone else. But it's what's under that's such a problem. So, and a lot, families are often, it's unintentional passing down these insecurities. But definitely the research shows that parental comments about weight are linked to poor body image in children. End of. Okay. And again, the second thing, and I've said it, so media and unrealistic standards, you're getting bombarded with images of perfection, obviously that aren't reality. There's, everything's airbrushed, or of course there's filters on social media. And everything's heavily filtered. And this, apparently the average American woman is a size 16 to 18. The average American woman, 16 to 18. But the models are sizes 0 to maybe a 4. I always say for men, the pressure comes in the forms of, chiseled abs and these kind of superhero physiques. Which would really require, you've got your Wolverine and your, that kind of stuff, and Thor and whatever, with these ridiculous, grueling workouts, diets that aren't sustainable. And frankly, a lot of people being on the juice, that's allowing their body to get that big. So, sorry, blow my nose. And again, social media, 24/7 comparisons, and studies show that anything over 20 minutes, especially when you're not interacting, when you're just sort of scrolling, is considered excessive time on social media, just over 20 minutes a day. And anything in that realm correlates with, from the research, correlates with increased body dissatisfaction. Even if you're following fitness and health accounts, right? A lot of them are framed like, oh, these are motivational, but they can contribute also to harmful beliefs about needing to look a certain way. Okay. And before I get to the tips, I do want to say something about the difference between males and females, because men and women experience body image pressures differently, again, because of those societal expectations and the media portrayals. So women often feel pressure to be, thin and youthful, while men are frequently pushed towards, again, that muscularity and that strength. And research shows that while body dissatisfaction is more commonly reported by women, there's a significant and growing concern for men as well. Okay, so that's like the National Eating Disorders Foundation, has been doing a lot of research on this, and men they are on the rise. They're not close to women yet, but they are. And again, that kind of thin ideal perpetuated by the media and culture for women is just everywhere. So there's so much for weight loss, and that's your path to happiness and success. And I can't tell you how many women I've had tell me like, oh, when I lose 10 pounds, I'll start dating or something like that. It's crazy. And again, men with these muscle ideals and these muscular physiques dominating everywhere they look, men can even engage in these like excessive exercising or supplements, or even being on the juice themselves, right? So there's been, and I found research that showed that men who viewed fitness-focused media were more likely to report dissatisfaction with their own muscularity compared to those who didn't. So you think maybe this is motivating? It's not. And women exposed to fashion and beauty media reported higher dissatisfaction with their weight. So, it's really clear. But I think both, all genders face stigma when they deviate from any kind of social norm, right? I think sometimes men who are overweight are labeled as lazy. Women with larger physiques are unhealthy. We hear these things all the time. And again, how it's going to be really hard to love your body and have a good body image when all that's going on. And I think the internal critic, you have that loud, relentless voice in your head when it comes to your body image struggles. And that's shaped by this lifetime of, maybe some negative feedback. Again, internal, external, society, whatever. It's I'll only be happy if I lose 10 pounds. Or if I could just look a little younger, my value will be higher. So, noticing a small weight gain might spiral into like, oh, I'll never look good again, or it might trigger like sort of an automatic overwhelming feeling, and suddenly you can't see a big picture of like, yeah, I gained a few pounds. It was the holiday, I'll have to address it now, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just buy bigger pants. So if you're going to address that inner critic, you need some intentional strategies. Okay. So again, like a cognitive behavioral therapy, which I talked about, it teaches you to identify and challenge any distorted thinking, mindfulness practices. I talk about mindfulness every friggin' broadcast. So that can help quiet the inner voice, right? Having a non-judgmental awareness of your thoughts and your body. These are good things to do. So let's get to our 5 steps to make peace with your body. Hopefully I've driven the point home. Number 1 is to practice media literacy. What do you mean by that, Abby? What the hell is media literacy? Well, basically what I'm saying is that it's to remember not everything you see online is real. I shouldn't have to say that out loud, but as I already mentioned with like the Kylie Cosmetics thing, like, hello, just because someone says, no, I have not had plastic surgery, or yes, I've easily, I remember when the Wegovy or Ozempic stuff started and everybody was like, oh, I'm taking more steps and I'm hiking on the weekends and I cut out sodas, and everyone's like shrinking dramatically and losing 50 pounds in a month and or whatever in 6 months. It's like, again, it's okay. And by the way, I'm not against those medications at all. I think it's great for people who need to take them. I'm all for it. It's just the lying, so that you think, oh, all I have to do is walk more. I just have to walk more. That's the problem with it. So remember that not everything you see or hear online is real. Remind yourself, just of that. I think it's a game changer. Airbrushing filters, they make us look, pretty flawless. I use a filter on TikTok. I ain't going to lie about it. I look fabulous on TikTok. If you don't follow me there, you should. I look amazing. I use a little beauty filter. I like that it says you do it so that people know, I'm not trying to like scam you. And you might hate that I do that. It doesn't mean I hate myself. It does mean that I know the world I live in. And TikTok especially, it's just one of those spaces. It's like, oh, I go back and forth. Trust me. Some days I'm like, why do I do this? It's crazy. And other days I'm like, oh, but I really like how I look. I hate looking at videos of myself, not because necessarily I think I look horrible. It's just not anything I've ever enjoyed, even when I was young and fabulous. Watching myself, hearing myself was always a little difficult for me. I don't watch, videos on YouTube of myself or listen to the podcast again. It's not my best thing. I should get better at it, I'm sure. So maybe one day I'll stop using the filter on TikTok. Right now, I enjoy looking like I did when I was 40 without having to get any kind of plastic surgery or use Botox or anything. It makes me happy. There you go. Anyway, but it's out there. I'm saying it now. You can see it on the thing. Just be aware. That's all. You don't have to hate it all. Just be aware. And I would say to really start curating your digital space. So what that means is I want you to unfollow accounts that make you feel crappy. I said it. Unfollow them that make you feel inadequate. Follow ones that promote body positivity or diversity or something else. Really be mindful. Take an active role really in questioning the images and the messages that you run into. So if you're scrolling through, Instagram, just look, is this image edited? It probably is. I remember being shocked with some of the people I was following and they were like, oh yeah, this is the beauty filter. I was like, oh, this isn't them. Just, is it lighting? Is it the perfect makeup? Whatever. Practice a level of awareness. It helps you rewire your brain to be more critical of harmful media rather than critical of yourself. I'll say that again. I want you to be more critical of harmful media than critical of yourself. There you go. I have one client who only started following creators who embraced like their cellulite and stretch marks kind of thing. And she said it. I feel not only more confident, but also more connected. She says she feels more connected to her own body after realizing that, like seeing this stuff being normalized, that imperfections are normal, that there can even be beautiful. She doesn't even notice them on other people. Why am I noticing it so much on myself? She's not keying in the same way. And I would really, really, did I say really? I like to do that. Did I say really? Encourage a social media detox. Even a 24-hour break can work wonders in just resetting your mindset. Use that time to journal, or I don't know, do something in IRL, in real life. Go do an activity that might bring you joy. Go walk outdoors. I know a lot of you like that. I don't do nature, but some of you seem to think it's fabulous out there. Connect with friends, any of that. I have an earlier podcast I did called 7 Steps for Dealing with Technology in Your Relationships. I have a different one about phubbing, which is using your phone, inappropriately in a relationship. With all the research and all that stuff, I will link to it, all the places I link. And again, once again, if you're on Patreon, it'll all be in one place. Okay. Number 2 is I want you to challenge your negative thoughts. I've been talking about CBT a lot as an effective means of dealing with this body image issues. So, and I would say the number one thing I want you to do is to get away from is it true to is it helpful. Just do that. Yes, it might be true that your thighs definitely make noise when you walk. Okay? Because I see you, queens. I got some thighs too. They might be rubbing against one another. But is it helpful to focus on said thighs? Is it motivating you to punish yourself to say mean things to yourself in your head about how you look? Is it helpful? Is it getting you to the gym? Is it making you be more motivated to eat well? I don't think so. If anything, you feel like crap and then you're more motivated to eat crap. It just, if it helped, you would be so skinny and perfect looking. If it helped to criticize yourself, to talk shit to yourself over and over, and to shame your body, you would look incredible because that's all your little inner critic does. That inner critic is ruthless. She's ruthless in there, but it doesn't have to run the show. And the next time you catch yourself thinking something negative about your body, ask yourself, is this helpful, this thought? And then challenge yourself to think of one helpful thought, one helpful thing to replace that. So replace, I hate my stomach with, maybe my stomach carried kids, or it's hard to focus on losing weight when I'm feeling overwhelmed by just surviving day to day. I'm going to give myself a break today and not focus on my stomach. Like, really? Your stomach? Really? Is that where we're going? I know, I can't tell you how many women I work with who will not get on top during sex because they just feel like, oh my God, my stomach, my this, my that. And I'm like, okay, then buy some sexy lingerie to wear and go on top. Like, I get it. If you're so self-conscious, you're probably not, having a good time. It's going to be hard to orgasm. But I will tell you that I work with your partners a lot who are sometimes men and sometimes women or other, and they don't care. It's very rare that I have a man or a woman say to me, I'm not attracted to my partner anymore physically, as long as the rest is there. As long as they're connecting, right? Feeling close, as long as there's all that other stuff there. Men generally want to have sex. Men, you can shout out below the video, but I'll tell you, they're if you're feeling excited and you're into it, they usually really like it. I don't know what else to say. And women too, if you're in a 2 women relationship, I don't seem to see a problem with it. So take a breath and maybe don't focus on your tummy or whatever it is. So when you actively challenge your thoughts, it really does weaken their power over time. Again, that's what CBT does, cognitive behavioral therapy does. or maybe you're upset because, you put on a pair of jeans and they're too tight or something. Instead of spiraling, about that, it's like, hey, my body has changed and that's okay. I'm going to choose clothes that fit today. And maybe it's time to get rid of these jeans. I don't know. Again, I'm not saying, because in your head, I know right now you're like, if I do that, I'll just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's like, just when you stop judging, you might find that there's more space for you to want to take care of yourself because you're focused on liking yourself. And no matter what, we do know from the research that accepting yourself where you are is with whatever that is a much better way to achieve goals, that those people achieve goals at a higher rate than people who are speaking very negatively to themselves. So I give you that. I did an entire episode on cognitive reframing, as we call it. Again, the cognitive behavioral therapy, it's called How to Stop Overthinking and Let Things Go That Bother You. And it's a very popular episode. And again, I will link to it everywhere. So you really want to go deep on that one. It's its own episode because there's a whole way to do it. And I lay it out step by step, as you know I always do, because I love you. Who loves you? Abby loves you. So it's all there. Number 3, the third thing I'll tell you to do is to focus on function, not form. So that's another, and you can do one of these, all 5 of these, whatever order. There's no order that they're in. They're not steps. They're just 5 tips. Your body is so much more than how it looks, right? So you can start by focusing on what your body does for you every day. For, example, your legs might not look like a model's, but they're strong enough to carry you through hikes and dance classes or long days on your feet, right? And believe it or not, doing some gratitude exercises can help shift your focus. Take a moment each day to maybe jot down one thing your body allowed you to do. Maybe it's as simple as I walked to the store today, or I walked to the refrigerator and my arm was strong enough to open it. I'll take it. Or, it could be something gushy. Like I hugged my kids today. I held hands with my partner today. Like my body was allowing these things, just one thing you appreciate about your body. Maybe you just have the really good eyesight still at your age. I don't know, like something you appreciate. The next time you feel tempted to critique your appearance, ask yourself, what has my body done for me today? It's small, but it's impactful, and it's a way to build appreciation. Okay. The 4th thing I would tell you to do, which is probably really my number 1, if I had one, is to set boundaries, around body talk. Okay. And I would set them with yourself as well as other people. So, sometimes the negativity isn't necessarily coming from you. It comes from other people. So if family or friends make comments about your weight or your appearance, you got to set some boundaries. I've shared many times about my clients who have lost weight or changed their appearance somehow, and they've been very clear with their families to not talk about, these are not subjects I'll talk about. And if you do, I will leave the party, the dinner, the whatever. I will hang up the phone, whatever, right? And my favorite, of course, as you know, is to redirect the conversation. So again, you can talk about something else. You could just redirect easily, right? As they start to talk about your body, you could say, oh my God, I've been trying all these new recipes. I'm really excited. Here's the one I've been loving, right? Or I love my morning yoga class, or there's positive ways to change the focus. But my favorite conversation redirector, which I've shared many times, is there are so many things I'm excited to talk to you about, and my weight isn't one of them, or this isn't one of them, or my, how my hair looks isn't one of them. And then just jump into that new topic. Don't even pause. The awkwardness comes if you put it's when you're shaming them. There's a lot of things I'd rather talk about than this. That's not what you're doing. You're saying, oh my gosh, I have to do this. I've shared many times. I've done it. I used to do it with my mom. I do it with my siblings when they're off on some weird tangent. And anybody else. But I'll just say oh my gosh, I love you so much. There's so many things I'm excited about in my life right now that I'd much rather talk to you about. And then I jump in oh my gosh, McCartney, my daughter did XYZ, or wow, I'm starting a Patreon on my, this online community. Let me tell you about it. I'm really excited. Whatever it is, but jump right in. Have it. I'm snapping. Can you hear me snapping? Have it right there. right there at like right on the tip of your tongue. Don't say, oh, there's so many things I'd rather talk about, and then let it hang. Just go there. I'm telling you, people will come along. I promise you. I guarantee. I guarantee. I'm telling you, people come along. They might later. It's almost like a kung fu move, because they don't even realize till later sometimes that you like kind of slap their hand away a little bit. It's later that they'll be like, hey, but that's fine. It really is. It's like a great little like jujitsu different. I don't know any of these. I'm pretending I know these martial arts and I don't. So stop laughing at me if you do these. But I'm always thinking of like, you're like moving this, and then you're over here and you're flipping them and they don't even notice because you've grabbed them a certain way. And that's really what redirecting the conversation or, doing this very specific. There's so many things I'm excited about. There's so many things I'd rather talk to you about. Oh, I was really excited today to talk about X, not the weight I lost. So let me talk about X, and then just jump in. And the fifth thing I would say is really you gotta, and these are all from the research again, and I linked all the research. I'm not just like making these up. These are things that have been proven to help you. And the fifth thing is to engage in some kind of body positive activities, some movement that can be joyful and not tied to weight loss or to punishment. Really explore activities that make you feel good in your body. And I don't care if that's, it could be something like yoga, swimming, dancing, or taking a walk. It could be, but there's other ways to even stretching in your room. Just stretching on the floor, not trying to, lose weight, not trying to be in a certain downward dog. I'm not trying anything. I'm just stretching. And stretching always feels really good to me. Just don't stretch too quick that you pull muscle. I've done that because I'm old. That's what happens. But when you do these sort of things, for me, it's cooking and baking and like even being in the kitchen like that. I'm using my body. I'm kneading bread maybe, or I'm mixing something, or I'm physically up and active in that. And it feels good. I don't know what else to say. It feels good. And those kind of activities really foster a sense of connection with your body, and they help you appreciate your body's capabilities. And that's what you're really doing. Definitely mindfulness practices like body scans are also super duper helpful, because during a body scan, you're kind of mentally checking in with each part of your body and you're noticing sensations without judgment. So it's really helping you build awareness with your body. It's helping you build gratitude. And I'm going to say it again, if you're part of my Patreon community, I have an excellent body scan. It's about 20 minutes, with my beautiful voice that you seem to love. And that's a bonus for tier 2 and 3 members, a little extra special for you. But, these are things you get. But like I said, you can get a body scan also. Go to YouTube and put in body scans. There'll be a ton of them. Okay. So you don't have to hear my melodic voice either. So try hobbies that don't focus on your appearance at all. Do that. Garden, paint, play an instrument. I don't know. All these things are kind of physical. Use your body or even your breath. And they're activities that remind you that your worth is rooted in your passions, not your physical form. That's what you're trying to do. So I want to wrap up and just say that, what do I want to say? I want to say that body acceptance isn't about loving every part of yourself all the time, because let's face it, that's not going to happen. And I will tell you, I feel really good in my body all the time, but there's lots to not feel good about if I wanted to not feel good, right? I'm old. My boobs aren't where they, supposed to be, nor is my butt. There's cellulite, there's things. But I don't, that's just not where and I've had to work on this. Because again, I had the worst body image when I was younger, which is so funny, when I had a banging bod, like I said. And now when I don't have as much, I wear bikinis. Like, I don't care. You know what I mean? I'm wearing what I'm comfortable in, that I feel like looks great when I look at myself, when I'm enjoying. And I like a lot of sun, so I want less clothes on, like that's just me. That's what I'm doing in a moment. So, but it's really about what you're comfortable in, and then trying to maybe push yourself to be a little more comfortable in different kinds of ways, right? It doesn't mean like I'm not walking around in like some mini dress. Like I don't, because I just don't want to wear that. Like it's not something that's appealing to me to wear. So, I'm not saying I don't dress for my body or wear things that accentuate kind of my best assets. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just being really, again, not having the critic be on show. So no matter what I'm wearing, I could look at something that doesn't look right to me, to an eye, to a perfectionist eye, and I just choose not to. I just have trained myself over time. And again, this works with my clients, not just me. This is what I was taught to do, and this is why I did it and how I'm on the other side. So it's about, really seeing your body for the incredible machine it is and respecting your body for the work it does and treating it with the same kindness you'd offer a loved one or a friend or frankly, a stranger on the friggin' street. Your body carries you through every moment of life, good and bad. It is there. It's, embracing that means you're accepting yourself. It means you're recognizing that your worth is not tied to your appearance, but to the unique and irreplaceable, amazing person that you are. So, start with small steps here, wherever tiny wins you can make. Remind yourself often that the mirror doesn't define you. It never could define you. It would never happen. It never could. Your value is really woven again into the person you are, not the image you see. So that's really what I want to leave you with. Okay. All right. Thank you for being here. I know this was a lot today. Again, there's a Changing Beliefs worksheet if you're in tier 2 or 3. There's journaling prompts if you're in any of my tiers in Patreon. There's the body scan. There's lots of There's lots of goodies in the Patreon and live Q&As with me and all those things. So I really hope you also join me there. If you feel like you can't and don't have the money or don't have the inclination, I know you're getting a lot of value. Like I said, I always promise I'm going to still give you high value here. There's still going to be things that I link to or giveaways or whatever, like I always have. I just have created extra things that are going into these other tiers for people. Again, the Patreon is really for someone who wants community, wants a place to really have more of me, more of each other, more of like-minded individuals, and who wants to maybe dig deeper on the issues I talk about. And a lot of you write to me and say that this really either is an adjunct to your therapy or is instead of therapy. Like you feel like you've made leaps and bounds, by doing the homework. Because again, when people pay me, this is the homework I give them. It's what I'm giving you. This is what we do. So there's a lot of magic in doing the work on your own. There really is, if you're committed to it. So I know you're already committed because you're here with me. Because that's who's listening. I know if you're listening, you're smart, you want to help yourself, you're ready to not be a victim in life, and you're ready to really make some changes. So I'm very happy you're here. I am excited to just be with you. As always, I really appreciate our time together. It's just, I always feel like the lucky one in this relationship. And so have an amazing week. If no one told you today you are loved, there is great love here for you. I love you. And I will talk to you real soon.